So I guess we'll get into my list. I have 10 games total, but I'll just do the top, 6 through 10 as honorable mentions. I'll try to go through them as quickly as possible. So number 10, I have The Division. This came out in February, I believe. It's a game with a lot of flaws, but it does have a lot of character in it too, and I think it's interesting. A lot of people, like myself, compare it to it's a kind of like a loot chaser, kind of like Destiny, but I actually enjoyed this a lot more than Destiny. The shooting mechanics for both games are solid, but The Division had a lot more personality to me, and it's funny because I'm a lot more of a space sci-fi guy, so you would think that Destiny would be my thing, but The Division, I just liked the post-apocalyptic nature. I liked the design of it. I thought it was very well done. I thought the details were very good. I haven't jumped into its new update yet, which seems very interesting. The survival mode, which is kind of like H1Z1-esque, where everyone's put on this map and the last person standing wins. Matches can last up to 2 hours, which is kind of crazy. So I don't know if I'm willing to dive in for that. I'll last till the end. Either way, Division's a solid game. Number 9, Firewatch. This is a game that drew a lot of controversy because a lot of people felt as if it hyped itself up to be something it wasn't. I strongly disagree with that. I think Overwatch has a fantastic story, though it's not very deep. It is interesting.
Firewatch.
Yeah, did I say Overwatch? Sorry.
Easy mistake to make.
Yeah. So Firewatch, its story is very interesting. I don't want to spoil the end of it, but one of the complaints people had is that at the end of it, it kind of draws you into the end of the story that has nothing to do with anything else that was going on. But actually, there's a lot of footprints in the grass along the way that kind of lead you towards this conclusion if you pay attention. And I felt that the voice acting was very phenomenal because it's kind of like one of the major proponents of this game. But the game looks beautiful itself too. I think there's a lot of indie games that did a lot of stuff better, but I do appreciate experiencing Firewatch. What else? Let's see here. Another honorable mention. This isn't in my top 10, but Virginia. I actually wrote a review on this. You can check it out at our website, controlledinterest.com. Virginia is a very solid game. It's another indie game. It doesn't have a single line of dialogue in it, but it's a very solid game. I like it a lot. It's very weird, and it's very sci-fi-y, but it's very crime drama as well. If you had a chance to play it, definitely pick it up. It's a really, really interesting experience. Number 7, Titanfall 2. A lot of people had issues with this game. It didn't sell very well because of its timing of it releasing. I thought that the single player was as creative as any shooter campaign I've played in a very long time. I've talked about Effect and Cause being one of the best FPS missions of the last 10 years. I wholeheartedly agree with that. The multiplayer is good. I think it's very solid. I think Titanfall 2 is a very solid game. You can put it up there with the Call of Duties and the Battlefields, if not better in some instances. But yeah, Titanfall 2 I think was a tremendous experience. I'm super happy to play it. I'll play anything that the Respawn guys that were formerly Infinity Ward will make. Number 6, The Final Destination. The Final Station, which essentially in some ways at the end of the game there is a final destination. It's as the zombie slash train simulator I talked about practically ad nauseum this year, here and there. It's very cool. It's a small indie game, side scroller. I like the mix of genres. I like that you kind of piece the story together. It's funny. I like stories that video games have very strong stories and tell it to you very well. But I also like games where it's super obtuse and you have to kind of piece together the story yourself too. Both of those can be done really well, and I enjoy both of those when they're like top notch. So yeah, Final Station. I think that's a great game too. Put it on your wish list. It'll be on a Steam sale soon, and you should definitely pick it up and play it because it's great. It's also available on Xbox One, I believe, also on PS4. Number 5, Quantum Break. We talked about this for Jordan's list. I'll get into it a little bit. Quantum Break is a fantastic Microsoft exclusive. Whether or not Remedy continues it or if they go back to Alan Wake, I think Quantum Break is a great game. It's a great standalone game. The time manipulation is fantastic. I like time travel a lot. I think a lot of people do. And they have some great, phenomenal actors in this. My only downside to this game, like I talked about in last week's episode when I was talking about playing it, is that the TV show portions are good. Like, I think they were an interesting take, but there's a couple of actors in that TV show that are just bad actors. I don't think it has anything to do with the writing. I think the writing's fine. There was just some people that were terrible actors, and I'm assuming it had to be a budget thing because I mean they got Littlefinger from Game of Thrones, who he was probably a pretty penny, you know. and the main actor obviously, and then also I forgot his name. Sorry about that, but the guy from Lord of the Rings, who's the brother of the main character. But yeah, I thought the game was solid. I think if you own an Xbox, it is a must play. If you're able to get this on sale, I think you definitely should. It is, in my opinion, one of the best games of this year. It's very fun. The time powers are really awesome, and yeah, I think it's a really cool superhero game. Funny thing too, so the main actor of Quantum Break is the guy who plays Iceman in the X-Men movies, the X-Men franchise. And early in the game, when somebody sees his powers for the first time, he's like, "What are you, some kind of X-Man?" It's a really funny throwback to that of him, his real acting in real life. So I thought that was funny and interesting. Next up on the list, Doom. Dom talked about this already. Fantastic game. There's nothing bad about this game in its single player. Multiplayer is lackluster. Snap maps fantastic. Best soundtrack of 2016, hands down.
Oh yeah,
the soundtrack
definitely.
for Doom is fantastic, as you saw at the Game Awards if you watched it. Excuse me. It felt so satisfying, and yeah, the story is there, but that's not the point of Doom, and I just love that, like, even at the beginning of the game, you kind of wake up from the dead, kind of, and it's just like there's cult stuff, and it's like it knows what it is, and I appreciate that. I think it's kind of like what Duke Nukem has been trying to do forever, but this actually nails it. I think Duke Nukem tends to be over the top just for being over the top's sake, and I think Doom is doing it from its sense of personality. I thought Doom was fantastic, and I can't wait for the follow-up if they're called Doom 2, like if this is just a reimagining or a relaunch of the franchise. So can't wait for that. That'll be definitely a day one for me, the follow-up to this game. Number 3, Dark Souls 3. Dom did a fantastic job covering everything, so I don't know what else is left to say. I do agree with you that though this is the best game in the 3 games, I do like Dark Souls the most just because it's that nostalgia. I never played a game like Dark Souls, just like you, and it was different, right? And
It changes you.
yeah, it's kind of like the Toy Story franchise. Like, Toy Story 1 will always be my favorite, but 2 and 3 definitely make those movies better, and they tweak what made the original Toy Story good and even do them in a more refined, better way. But the first Toy Story will always be my favorite. It's kind of the same thing, except in Toy Story 2 isn't a way far departure than the rest, kind of like Dark Souls 2 was. But yeah, Dark Souls 3 is fantastic. A lot of people have some issues with Ashes of Ariandel, the DLC. I thought it was pretty interesting. It was kind of short, but yeah, I think it's a shame that we're not going to be getting a Dark Souls game for a while. Hopefully that means we'll be getting Bloodborne 2 for PlayStation gamers, but From is definitely one of, if not the most underrated developer in the world, because their games are phenomenal. And Naughty Dog does make solid games, but they do get a lot of credit for it. I think From doesn't get as much credit as they deserve. They were left off of a lot of categories in Game Awards this year, and it's kind of a shame because Dark Souls 3 is a phenomenal game. It is one of the best games of the year. So, number 2, I have Overwatch. This is a game that I've had a talk about to Jordan and Dom because they don't really play multiplayer games, and Overwatch is a fantastic game. Blizzard, when they decide to go into a genre of video game, they nail it completely. You can look at their resume. They have the MMO, they have practically, you would say they had the hero shooter, and like they just do everything they go into, they do it so well. And Overwatch is a game, it's probably the only game on this list that a majority of people will still be playing 5 to 10 years from now. A lot of these games people go back and play, but Overwatch does have the most legs out of any game released this year. And the way they constantly update the game and improve it and change the meta and improve problems and listen to player feedback and hold events. They held a Halloween event. Well, they held an Olympic event with the special Olympic game mode. They held a Halloween event with a special Halloween game mode and loot boxes. And they're doing the same thing for Christmas. So, like, they're keeping people involved, but it doesn't seem like bad or nasty. It's very genuine. I can go on and on about Overwatch, the fact that it allows anybody to play. You can not be good at shooters and play a healer or a tank and feel perfectly fine and feel like you're contributing to the team. The fact that they shy away from being a toxic environment where you can never see your teammates' kills and deaths. You only see your own statistics, which provides a lot of breathing room for you not to feel so angry at the rest of your team when a lot of other shooters, that's kind of in the forefront of you seeing, like, oh, I'm doing the best on my team, the rest of my team's garbage. yeah, and it relies on teamwork, and I think there's a character for literally anybody who wants to play. There's a character for any kid to relate with, which I think is huge. They have characters from every creed and walk of life. They have an Indian character, a Native American character, an Egyptian character, a white guy, a black guy. Like, they have something for everybody to relate to, and I think that's very solid because it allows everybody to get into this game and feel as if they're a part of it. It's not just a bunch of white dudes on the screen, right? So yeah, I think Overwatch is a fantastic game. I can go on and on, but sadly, it is not my personal game of the year. So my personal game of the year is actually Inside. This game's fantastic. It's from Playdead, the guys who made Limbo. I think there's a weird stigma that a lot of people feel as if an indie game can't be game of the year, which I think is really weird. Half of my list is indie games, now that I'm looking at it. The likes of Firewatch, Final Station, Inside, Virginia. Inside is a fantastic game. It's the most pixel perfect game made this year. I think second would probably be Overwatch, in my opinion. But Inside, every animation that's there, every little aspect of that game, every little piece and art detail, like, it's just so well made. When you hear this game took 6 years to make, but it's only a 4 to 6 hour experience, and you go and play it and you understand that, like, yeah, okay, I understand that because it's so detail oriented. And the story is obtuse, and the ending is kind of weird, but I like that. I like having to figure out the conclusion of a story myself, if that's the purpose of the game. I strongly believe that this game, if there is ever a video game art museum, this will be in it. This is as solid a video game as it is a piece of art. Yeah, I think it's so well done, and I can't wait for their next game, because Limbo was good, and I enjoyed Limbo a lot. This game blows Limbo out of the water. Like, Inside is a phenomenal masterpiece in gameplay and just art and art direction and design, and it is a phenomenal game. Like, the fact that it also came to PlayStation is great. I know a lot of people were like, oh, this is Microsoft's exclusive, let's hold it near and dear, but the fact that more people get to play this is awesome, because man, is this game, it's just phenomenal. Like, it's one of those games that I might actually play once a year, once every couple of years, just to get reminded of how good of a game it is. Yeah, so that's my personal list.